Locust Point. Located in southern Baltimore on a peninsula, it borders Tideport, Riverside, and Fort McHenry. Today, the neighborhood is mainly a residential area, but to first understand how Locust Point is today, we must first look at how it started. At its roots, Locust Point began as an industrial center. In 1845, a railroad company expanded into the area and turned it into a coal shipping center. Among the many businesses, the area was home to shipyards, metal smelting, brick making, and canning, among others. In 1868, a passenger terminal opened in the nearby ports, and immigrant families from Europe arrived and settled nearby, as there was lots of work to be done in the docks and factories. Most of Locust Point's current two-story brick row homes were built between 1848 and 1928. However, a map from 1937 shows that Locust Point had been redlined. The map designated Locust Point as a Grade 4 or D neighborhood. This meant Locust Point was the least desirable neighborhood. At the time, it was inhabited by mainly African Americans and immigrants. They were mainly labor employees with an estimated annual family income of $700 to $1,000. That translates to roughly $15,000 to $21,000 a year for an entire family in modern currency, an income that today would struggle to pay for housing in Locust Point alone. While the map technically is called a street map with a legend titled Residential Security Map, you have to notice that the map was made by the Division of Research and Statistics with cooperation of the Appraisal Department of the Homeowners Loan Corporation. This map demonstrates how Locust Point, while inhabited by African Americans and immigrants, was redlined by homeowner loaning businesses. As time went on, Locust Point eventually went through gentrification. The industry left the area and developers bought up the empty spaces. Like in 2005 when a developer bought a Locust Point mill to turn it into apartments, offices, and shops. The same developer put $71 million to turn a former Locust Point grain elevator into luxury apartments. Now, Locust Point is an upper-middle-class residential neighborhood on the National Register for Historical Places since 2012. Now, Locust Point has a population of roughly 2,100 people. They are mainly white and between the ages of 30 and 45, with a median household income of $88,962 per year. Over 40% of the adult population has completed college, and only 3% of the total population is unemployed. Locust Point is located in Baltimore, and its crime rate reflects that. While being safer than 27% of neighborhoods in Baltimore City, it still has a crime rate of 33.9 per every 1,000 residents every year. On interactive crime rate maps, Locust Point is in the orange, while the majority of Baltimore is in the red. Locust Point's housing market is quite high, with the mortgages in the area surpassing rent. The estimated mortgage rate for condominiums and row homes in the area sits at roughly $2,800. Meanwhile, the estimated rent in the same area is roughly $2,100. The vast majority of Locust Point residents are homeowners, sitting at 71% of the population. Locust Point has the advantage of having an elementary and middle school right within its boundaries. Francis Scott Key Elementary and Middle School supports kids in pre-K to 8th grade. Riverside also feeds into this school. With a total enrollment just over 500, the student-to-faculty ratio is 18:1, slightly higher than the national average of 15:1. In terms of resources for the entire neighborhood, Latrobe Park, sitting on 13 acres of land at Locust Point South, offers lots of green space to neighborhood's residents. Locust Point is heavy on car use. Over 50% of residents have 2 or more vehicles, with only a slim 4% having none. Residents use mostly street parking. The heavy use of personal vehicles is reflected in the commuter's mode of transportation, with 75% using a car, truck, or van to get to work. You have to travel out of the neighborhood to reach any grocery stores or banks. Locust Point has 3 main religious sites within its boundaries. All 3 derive from Christian faith, and there are no synagogues, mosques, or gathering places for other religions within the neighborhood. Locust Point is an upper-middle-class residential area in southern Baltimore. Home to mostly young adults with full-time jobs, it has an elementary and middle school nearby, and a well-kept recreational park. However, it is commuter-heavy with little public transportation support and high housing prices. For those who call Locust Point home, it works.